Steve Jobs once observed that if you're not willing to cannibalize your own business, someone else will do it for you. And how true is that, particularly in the ultra-competitive retail space right now? You know, as the status quo continues to be disrupted at a greater rate than ever in retail, particularly due to technology, the simple message is this: relying on what has led to success in the past will likely come at the cost of not just your future success, but your future survival. You know, I've spent the bulk of the last decade helping some of the world's biggest brands and organizations navigate change and stay ahead of the curve. And personally, I found it fascinating to examine brands and businesses that are going from strength to strength in the midst of all this change and disruption. And yet I'm also intrigued by the brands and businesses that are having the very opposite experience, that are falling victim or prey to some of this upheaval. You know, of course, the demise of brands like Blockbuster, BlackBerry, certainly Kodak, this leaves us with no doubt at all. Every business, every brand, every organization must be willing to reinvent itself well before they are forced to do so by external pressures. And there are plenty of brands and businesses that have done just this. I mean, three examples that come to mind. The first example would have to be DuPont. You know, years ago, DuPont were willing to sell off some of their most lucrative cash cows, nylon, Lycra, willing to sell off these businesses and reinvent themselves as a leader in the food and fuel sustainability or security space. Now, they today are a more lucrative, profitable, relevant brand than ever before because they're willing to take these steps. Or you look at the 180-year-old glassware manufacturer, Corning. Now, of course, far from the days where Corning was known for making glass light globes or cookware, today the bulk of their revenue comes from high-end medical devices, many of which weren't even invented 10 years ago. And another good example would have to be the Encyclopedia Britannica. You know, to their credit, as far back as the mid-1990s, Britannica realized that the writing was on the wall and that the written word would be superseded by online forms of information. And as far back as that point, they started taking steps to reinvent themselves to become the vibrant and profitable digital company they are today. Now, what can we learn from companies like those three, particularly as retailers? And that's the focus of this session titled The Reinvention Roadmap. My commitment is that audience members leave this session with a clear blueprint, an action plan for reinventing themselves in the coming few years and decades. Now, whether this is by embracing new products and services or exploring new markets or approaches or techniques, or even perhaps by just re-engineering existing processes and practices, the simple message is this: the future will favor the adaptable, just as opportunity favors the prepared. And this presentation will show you as a retailer how to be both of those things, adaptable and prepared for everything the coming few years will hold.